The Knicks bounced back in a big way from their loss to Boston with a 128-115 win over the Pacers. Karl-Anthony Towns went absolutely insane. Josh Hart had the back door left open for him all game, and the Knicks blew the Pacers out, even with Jalen Brunson in foul trouble for pretty much the whole second half. We're getting into it next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And he is Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit that auto download function on your favorite podcast app or notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And we have a great one in store for you guys today, because on today's episode, we're going to talk about the Knicks 128-115 win over the Pacers. Great to get back in that win column after that big loss to the Celtics over the weekend. Karl-Anthony Towns back in absolute cat form, just absolutely dominant, physically just mauling the Pacers this whole game. Josh Hart just continually torched former Knick Obi Toppin, getting backdoor for most of the second half, getting over 30 points for the first time for him this season. And they did all this with Jalen Brunson basically sitting on the bench for most of the game, with some great contributions from Deuce McBride and Payne. So we got lots to talk about on today's show. But if you get to the end of the show and you end up wanting more, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. But Gavin, we've gone long enough without talking about this game already. Karl-Anthony Towns, 40 points, 12 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals, 14 of 23 shooting, 3 of 8 from 3, 9 of 9 from the free throw line. We were definitely lamenting his performance against the Celtics last game, saying, man, he kind of just was completely taken out of that game. And he came back in this one and said, try to take me out of this one. And the Pacers had no answer. I mean, he was a force of absolute nature in this game, and just getting inside over and over again, finishing and ones over and over again, even getting the 3-point stroke back. I thought this was a great return to all-star form right before the all-star break. Hopefully he can keep it going for a second straight game tonight against Atlanta, but definitely a great return to form for him after that Celtics game.
Yeah, so here's the thing in this one. He was daring Indiana to try and take him out. They never actually tried to take him out. Inexplicably, despite Tom Thibodeau after that last game deciding to rock with Precious Achiuwa in the starting lineup again. OG Anunoby was we didn't really give the update. Shams Charania over the weekend said OG would be back after the All-Star break. Tom Thibodeau, I don't know if this is like some perverse edging he's doing with the Knicks beat reporters, but he said OG Anunoby was questionable in a game time decision. OG ultimately didn't play, so they decided to start Precious over Deuce, presumably to deal with Pascal Siakam. I think that's the wrong decision. We can get into more why later. But it opened the door for Indiana to do the exact same thing the Boston Celtics did and say, hey, if you're going to have a guy who can't shoot and isn't incredible at like ducking in on double teams to get dunks and stuff, we're just going to double off him all game and double your star big and not let him beat us. Indiana instead said, hey, we don't have Miles Turner, our best defender and rim protector. Karl-Anthony Towns, we bet you can't score on Pascal Siakam, Thomas Bryant, and Obi Toppin. And guess what? Karl-Anthony Towns with a bum knee, busted thumb, busted pinky, busted their butts in this one. 40 points to your point. He was exceptional offensively. Just first basket of the game was him getting a rebound, going coast to coast on Thomas Bryant for a layup. I thought that was a good sign. He was, as were this entire Knicks team, really consistent in running the floor and getting steals. The Knicks outscored Indiana in fast break points, 20-18. The Knicks early on, I love when they run this. I'll call it, there's maybe a better name for it, but I'll call it a second entry point pick and roll, where Cat runs a pick and roll with Jalen Brunson, dives to the rim. Brunson sprays it to the wing to Hart, and then Hart fires it in to Cat on the cut for a layup. He was hitting trail threes. He was posting up. He was attacking in transition, attacking one-on-one. The two-play sequence that defined the game for me, and like two of his best highlights the entire year, was when he tiptoed the baseline to drive by Thomas Bryant, and then just a vicious one-handed dunk over Benedict Mather. And that's a good sign that his knee is doing a little bit better after a few days off. And then literally, like, the next possession up the floor, Tyrese Halliburton fumbles the ball right into his hands, and he throws maybe his best pass of the year. Like, fakes a righty sling to get by Siakam, one dribble, looks to his right, and then just launches a bounce pass between two defenders to Hart, cutting up the floor for a layup. Had a big drive late with 3 seconds left on the shot clock. Blow by, layup to beat the buzzer, push the lead to 105-95. From that point forward, Indiana was never that close again. Had some issues in pick and roll defense. We can talk about that later a little bit if you want, but just a dominant, masterful offensive performance aided by some inexplicable coverage decisions from Indiana.
Yeah, I love that pass that you mentioned, the really slick pass where he did it in transition and had the little fake. It was almost like the way that you fake on like a back down in a pivot, like when you're backing down and like you've got in, like, say your right hand and you're backing down on the right block, and then you back down and then you fake like you're about to throw it back door or whatever, and then turn around and hit a hook shot. It was almost like that, but just like in real time, during a fast break. And my favorite part of that whole thing was Tyrese Halliburton's reaction in the background, like almost being like, is that a violation of some sort? Like, come on, call him for something, call him for travel. It's like, dude, he literally just did the sort of thing that you would do. Like, what are you talking about? Like, except for he's 7 feet tall and also a much better basketball player than you. I by the way, have we talked about Halliburton's stats yet? I don't think he was particularly, I mean, I guess he was a little better than I thought. He didn't look didn't stand out much in this game. So, whatever. We can take any opportunity to crap on him. But yeah, I thought this was a great game for Cat. I mean, pretty much everything you said, all those plays. I mean, the biggest thing for me was just, it looked like he came in with an attack mindset in this one, knowing that they were without Miles Turner. That's a big difference. Although, I mean, I don't know that necessarily those sort of players have really vexed Cat all that much on defense this year, because we certainly saw against like Rudy Gobert, for example, that like kind of just torched him from the perimeter. And with the 3-point shot going today, he probably could have done that if Miles Turner was on the floor. But that said, like, with Thomas Bryant out there and whoever else they were able to throw at him, he was just straight up like getting the ball, throwing his head down, getting his shoulder into someone, creating space, like just big boying his way to rebounds. There were so many where it looked like the rebound was like, going to fall into someone else's lap, and then Cat would just kind of pop out of nowhere and like grab it and just go up for another layup. And it was just straight bully ball from him. Exactly what you want to see. Again, after a game where like we were really getting on his butt a little bit about like, hey, dude, like, you need to kind of assert yourself a little more. Like, I thought that he kind of disappeared a little bit in that Celtics game. And this one, just a great return to form and finishing through contact too, no less. Like,
yeah,
I will say props to Tibbs in this one. Not normally a guy to get himself a technical foul. Normally he just kind of toes that line, and it's like well recorded that he's one of the more vocal coaches in the NBA to refs, where he'll get in their ear or whatever, but every ref will always say like, yeah, but we never tee him up because he's always respectful or whatever. Apparently he was not too respectful to the lead official today, because at one point Cat was pretty obviously fouled on a shot and it was not called. And then on the other end, Cat did more or less the same thing to Pascal Siakam that he had just had as a no call on him, which was like kind of like getting vertical, but slanting his arms forward a little bit, but mostly holding his ground, which was kind of what had happened to Cat on the other end, and he didn't get a foul call for it. Then Cat gets called for a foul. Cat kind of pleaded his case. I thought he was going to get teed up, to be completely honest, and he didn't. But then Tibbs apparently was giving them an earful on the way back, being like, hey, if you're gonna call that on them, or on my guys against them, make sure you call it, on this end too. And they got the technical, but I thought Cat got a much better whistle from that point on throughout the rest of the game. I mean, he was getting inside. But I'm not saying that they were like giving him extra calls or anything, but like normal amounts of contact for what you would expect
Mhm.
to be a foul to Karl-Anthony Towns were being called as fouls again, which I think is all you can ask for. So, yeah, I thought that it was a great game for him. Just the aggressive mindset showed through a lot, and I think other than well, he had 21 in the first half and 19 in the second half. Josh Hart obviously was the reason that they like ran away with it in the second half, and the fact that Obi Toppin just could not guard him for anything. So maybe we could talk about that in just a moment. But unless you had anything left to say on Cat before we move on to Josh Hart.
No, I mean, I'll just note, I don't know if we'll get to it later. Same way Indiana didn't really take advantage of Precious being out there and double teaming him. I don't think they took advantage of Cat's greatest weakness on offense. And I don't know. I would assume Indiana is much more pick and roll or pick and pop based when Miles Turner is out there. Because that's not really Pascal. I mean, Pascal Siakam can short roll and hit a jumper, but that's not totally his game. But Cat, again, I thought like not nearly as badly as he did against the Celtics, partially because he's going against Andrew Nemhard and TJ McConnell and Halliburton instead of Jason Tatum. But I thought again, like kind of struggled a bit in pick and roll. Like Tom Thibodeau had him blitzing again, and just like he just cannot like. I really think it's a physical thing, and I wonder. Maybe it's too late in his career. He's just 10, 11 years in, but if we just got like the right trainer over the summer that got him into incredible shape, if this could change, but it feels like he just gets tired and his hands drop down for a second and like he'll blitz TJ McConnell, but there's almost no point in blitzing with Cat because he either like if he's in the right position, his hands are down, you can just throw a pass over the top, which McConnell did, hit Brian, and then Brian hit Siakam for a layup, or like what we saw against Tatum is like he'll go in, but it's almost like a dog, like when a dog, like especially like a puppy, like sprints to you, but they can't stop their momentum and they overshoot you. Cat is constantly overshooting, and he just like skidded right past TJ, and that was the play where TJ had that like nasty spin move between Cat and Deuce, and then hit like whoever it was, like Obi or Bryant for a layup. So the pick and roll D is still not particularly good. But unlike last game, I thought Cat made up for it a little bit with some better rebounding, but also with really active hands, finishing this game with 3 steals. And that's always what you're looking for from him, right? If he's going to struggle in rim protection, if he's going to struggle in pick and roll coverage, can he be an elite rebounder? Can he pick up a couple steals with good instincts and quick hands? And he was able to do that tonight. And you add in how fantastic he was offensively. Overall, just a major positive. Josh Hart, to your point, 30, 10, and 5. He was definitely a major positive. We'll talk about it in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks.
But first, we got to let you know about our friends over at WayFair. And after the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, WayFair has everything you need, all within your budget. I'm currently looking for some furniture, and their huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and budget. And I'll tell you, I'm furnishing a new place at the moment. If anyone's noticed, I've got a nice big old blank backdrop behind me that needs filling out at some point with a shelf where I could put some knickknacks to make my backdrop look better. Perhaps that will happen on Wayfair. We shall see. But there's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or budget, and they make it easy to tackle your New Year's home goals with endless inspiration for every space. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, we're back in to keep talking through this 128-115 Knicks win over the Pacers. And Gavin, as amazing as Cat was in this game, I think Josh Hart kind of stole the show. 30 points, 10 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, 12 of 16 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3, 5 of 7 from the free throw line. But the big thing was, I mean, in the second half, the guy was just an absolute dynamo. 19 of those 30 in the second half. And I just thought he came out and was basically like, I'm going to attack and attack and attack and attack and attack. And like everybody just watch for me, especially if I'm guarded by Obi Toppin. Like he is leaving the back door wide open and I'm just going to waltz right in and go score 2 points. And it was like, it felt like 20 possessions in a row that he just backdoor cut them. And there was absolutely nothing that the Pacers did to stop him. And it was great timing, great cuts, great passes by his teammates, to be fair, too. I mean, I don't think that they don't deserve any of the credit, because there was great lead passes from Cat, from Bridges. I think Brunson hit him on one of them in the time that Brunson was able to play. I mean, so certainly he needed his teammates to find him on those cuts, but just the instincts by Hart, and like clearly that was something that they identified at halftime and said, let's exploit this in the second half, and this might win us the game. And it totally did. I mean, that was part of what helped them pull away in the third quarter, and then well, I shouldn't say pull away in the third quarter, just kind of keep the Pacers at arm's length at about 7-8 points in the third quarter when they were still playing better, and then just bludgeon them to death in the fourth quarter and end up winning the game. So, yeah, I thought it was just a brilliant cutting game from Hart, and just kind of showcased one of the best parts about his game that we see often, but never quite this many times in one game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that you nailed it. Like, that was exactly what I was going to say. His third quarter run was absolutely essential after, like, the way this game went. Like, the first quarter was pretty even, but I believe Indiana, I'm going to double check right now, they were up for like a pretty good chunk of the first quarter, and the Knicks on a Towns and one finished the quarter up by one, and then the Knicks outscored them 41-34. And I thought it was a really good decision by Tom Thibodeau. Obviously a lot of it was because Brunson picked up 3 early fouls, but I was happy he stuck with Payne and Deuce for something like the first 8 minutes of that second quarter, and they went on an 11-2 run to open up, and like generally were like kind of able to keep Indiana at bay. And then for whatever reason, like Brunson picked up his 4th and 5th foul like right away to start the second half, if I'm remembering that correctly. Picks up his 5th foul with 8.5 minutes to go in the third, and you would think the Knicks offense would fall apart. Instead, their defense completely falls apart. They were terrible. A lot of it was on Mikal Bridges, who, like, it felt like a flashback to early season where he was just not navigating screens very well. And Halliburton, who's not, I don't want to say he's a bad one-on-one player, because that's part of his game where he's really developed, but relative to his status as a star player is not like the most. He's very crafty, but he's not the most explosive guy off the dribble. And he was cooking Mikal for the bulk of the third. Josh didn't really help. Like him and Deuce had some miscommunications. Him and Mikal had some miscommunications. The help defense wasn't really there. And then Hart just ripped off like 3 straight baskets, or like 4 in like 5 or 6 possessions, like ducking off a campaign drive and then crashing off of a Cat miss, beating Obi to the rim for a putback. And then there was the play where Mikal hit him on just a dime from like 30 feet away. That was easily my favorite play of the day from Mikal Bridges. And then Mikal hit him on another backdoor for another lay. And then in the fourth quarter, it was him and campaign. And I think, even though obviously him and JB have like that extraordinary chemistry in the half court, I almost think Payne is better for him than Brunson is, just because he's so quick and so good at getting like substantial separation from his defender. It forces a big to step up, and it creates a lane for Hart to just duck in, especially when Cat is spacing, and get a layup. And we saw that over and over and over again, where either Payne was setting him up or setting Deuce up for 3. I actually looked it up, in the 3-man combo of Payne, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Hart on the year, plus 9.9 per 100 possessions, at a pretty robust sample size of 566 possessions. So I'd like to see more of that trio, but it was, I'm going to steal a term from our buddy Benji Ritholtz here. It was an inspirational third quarter for Josh Hart. Just kind of felt like classic Hart. And I think the Knicks needed it, because they were a little lifeless in that third quarter otherwise.
Yeah, and that's to say nothing too of the passing that he offered too. I mean, just helped get Cat going early on, like worked a lot of the action with Cat, with Brunson on the bench, which like we still haven't really talked about. But I mean, Hart had to really step in and take on more initiation than he typically does in this game, because of the fact that Jalen Brunson, for whatever reason, I don't know, he was in a weird headspace apparently tonight, because got his 4th foul with like 9 something left in the third quarter, and then picked up his 5th like a minute later on a really stupid foul. Like he had turned the ball over and then clearly just got frustrated, then just like whacked Nembhard in the face. I think it was Nembhard.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
And it was just like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know, man. But anyway, Hart really stepped up in that way. And I thought just had the usual good eyes up, like in transition, laced like a really nice pass to Bridges at one point in transition, where he almost got like truck sticked. Hart did, like he started going up floor, and then it was hard to tell because it was kind of bang bang, but like it almost looked like whoever was in front of it was kind of trying to like draw a charge, but then Hart just like whammed into the dude and floated a perfect pass to Bridges right before that, like a quarterback about to get sacked who just like throws a dime like as the guy's arms are like already around him. And so that one was great. Also had like a really nice pass to Cat early in the game, which was according to NBA stats here that I'm looking, was Cat's 6th point. So I'm going to officially credit Hart with getting Cat going and setting the tone for his whole day. But just like a really nice pocket pass to him early on too. And even like a little sort of pick and pop type deal where Cat just kind of, set the screen. Hart took the screen, then just kicked it over to him for like a elbow three. I thought it was again, just even with only 5 assists, quote unquote, only, he's not getting a triple double in this game. I thought Hart managed to, even in his best scoring game of the year, still influence things as a passer and a ball handler too, which just kind of underscores all the things he does so well. And maybe making his last minute push for a injury replacement all-star nod if another one opens up before Sunday. So I guess we'll see, what the final injury report is like for the 4-team all-star format. Seems like guys are a little more likely to drop out this year based off early returns. So maybe someone else drops out and Josh Hart gets an all-star nod, but I guess we'll see. But for now, he certainly played like one in this game.
Yeah, he was great, and we almost we can take it for granted, but 10 rebounds, like, and it's still, you have to appreciate it. We're probably not going to see another Nick like him in our lifetime with his ability to rebound at his size. The bench was fantastic, and maybe on a night where Towns wasn't quite this hot and Hart wasn't quite as dominant at the rim, like it would have been the lead story. Campaign, Deuce McBride combined for 26 for 24. Landry Shamet, I was missing the box score. He had 11 and 4. Crazy Landry Shamet night. We're going to finish up talking about how the bench supplemented Jalen Brunson on a night where he was not on the floor very much and didn't really have it. And some more struggles for Mikal Bridges. We get into that next here on Locked On Knicks. But first, our friends over at OpenPhone. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where OpenPhone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to keep your work and personal life separate for just $15 a month. The cost of a few coffees, you can get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. If you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off 6 months. openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. Hey, what's up, guys? We are back. Third and final segment here on Locked On Knicks. I wanted to dive into the bench. Great game from the bench backcourt. Combined 34 for Campaign, Deuce McBride, Landry Shamet. I was planning on starting this off with Deuce, but man, I thought Campaign was spectacular. 9 points, but more importantly, 8 assists in 24 minutes, and in an area that is normally the main critique of him, his decision making. I thought Alex was pretty much flawless in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think he was pushing the pace well. He stepped in well in Brunson's absence, and in those times when Josh Hart wasn't, the one having to kind of run things, he did a great job. I think that we saw when it was just Deuce out there for a little bit after Brunson, was taken out of the game, that it was a little rough around the edges. It still always is going to be, I feel like. I just don't think that Deuce is like made for that like primary ball handling role, and Campaign just stepped in. I mean, I think the most important thing is like when less important than his three, I feel like, is if his drives are going well. That's usually a good sign for how things are going to go. Like if he just doesn't have that timing or that finesse around the rim, I feel like it kind of messes a lot of other things up for him. And I thought that, he went in, he was making his layups, he was making tough ones, no less. And so it kind of mitigated the fact that like he only shot 1 of 4 from 3, but like still managed to shoot 4 of 8 overall, and overall just have I think a really solid showing, scoring the basketball, even though he wasn't making threes, which isn't always the case with him. And then I feel like that inspires every other part of his game, including, how he distributes the ball. So I definitely enjoyed his outing as well. I thought it was one of his more balanced games of the season, if not the most electric.
Yeah, and I think in contrast to Jalen, I just love like he is such a quick decision maker, and Cat is like a fine screen setter. He's not an amazing screen setter, but what Cat has is a ton of gravity when he sets a screen, which means like you are rarely going to you'll see a switch, but you'll like rarely see like a blitz to the basketball, right? Because they don't want to completely abandon Cat, and that usually gives the point guard when Cat's at center a step going into an open lane. And Brunson will like typically not take advantage of that. Like occasionally he will, but usually he's either trying to get the ball back to Cat, or he's kind of waiting out a switch and is trying to attack the switch. And when he does go, he goes kind of slow. He wants to get someone on his hip, like control them and then go in for a push shot. Like I kind of like that campaign, just turns the corner like a bullet, gets right to the basket, like got a nice floater early. Like I just want to see a million pick and rolls between him and Karl-Anthony Towns. And it's something we've discussed all season. I think because of the thumb injury, it hasn't been quite as explosive, but seeing a version of Towns that looked a little healthier and a little more mobile tonight and was scoring the basketball, like Cat with the bench unit is just so much fun and really opens everything up. Like Cat, Deuce, Payne. I didn't look this up before, so I won't go off the top of my head, but I would have a feeling that's a trio that probably has really good numbers on the season. Another area that speed shows up for Payne is just on closeouts. Like he's so good at giving a little head fake, freezing the defender, and then just shooting into the lane, either for a layup or to kick it out for an assist. But Deuce McBride was also fantastic in this one. I didn't realize this. It was something our buddy Benji Ridholtz tweeted out. In 2025, Deuce had been shooting just 25% from 3. So wonderful to see him go 4 for 4 from 3. Also drew a 3-shot foul on Tyrese Halliburton, scored 12 points in his first 9 minutes. I am just desperate, Alex, to see more Deuce McBride on the court. I'm a little frustrated that he somehow only played 25 minutes in this one, despite Brunson only playing 23. And to your point, I know it's not a 1-for-1 exchange because he's not playing point guard, but just play the dude. Like good things happen when he's on the court. XJ, our friend over at the Hot Hand Theory podcast, tweeted this out. Deuce McBride is the only player in each of the Knicks' top 6 lineups with over 100 possessions on the year. The worst of those 6 lineups is outscoring opponents by 15 points per 100 possessions from cleaning the glass. Like when Deuce is out there, good things happen for the Knicks, even when he's not shooting well. On nights when he is shooting well, he should play 30 minutes. I think he should play 30 minutes no matter what. I think it would open up a lot for the Knicks. And I think, frankly, it is inexplicable to me that Tom Thibodeau continues to start Precious Achiuwa over Deuce when I think it is obvious at this point the benefits that Deuce brings to the table.
Yeah, and I think he partly does that because of like trying to match up with teams, especially without OG right now. I feel like maybe if it was Mikal that was out, we'd probably see Deuce starting. But I think
can I just throw a quick counter on that? So nominally, that's so Precious can guard Pascal Siakam. Yeah. Siakam was cooking Precious. Like he was hitting threes, he was hitting jumpers. I don't think Precious was particularly good rebounding the basketball defensively. The Pacers had 9 offensive rebounds, which isn't an insane number. But I like the reasons that you have Precious out there. I don't know if he totally fixes their defense. I don't know if he totally gives them a size matchup. I don't know if his rebounding is worth it. Like, I just don't think he brings enough given how he can limit your offense. It didn't happen tonight because Indiana wasn't doubling him, but I don't know. I just think Deuce brings more, and I think the numbers bear that out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not even saying that it wouldn't have worked had they done it, but I do think that, like, Bridges looked slightly overwhelmed with Siakam in a way that, like, I mean, I know Precious, like, he got cooked to a degree, but I mean, like, Siakam's an all-star, so, like, obviously he's going to cook. Like, if he's very talented, like, but there was once or twice where, Precious kind of got to him a little bit. Like, I don't know. It's neither here nor there since they won ultimately, but yeah, I am with you. Like, it would have been nice to find a few more minutes for Deuce. I guess it's like, I'm more okay with it because we saw Landry Shamet come back and sort of reassert himself as a rotation piece. Like I was starting to think that he was just toast. It was certainly seeming that way. Like, he was out of the rotation for a couple games and whatever, and now has kind of slowly worked his way back in. This one, I thought he was looking really good. I think that I think all three of those guys had fantastic games, and like you're gonna need at least two of those three out of Deuce, Payne, and Shamet to like really uh, uh, assert themselves down the stretch of the season here and make a case for getting a decent amount of minutes post All-Star break and everything leading up to the playoffs, because you never know, you might have to rely on one of those guys in the playoffs, like if there's an unfortunate injury or something like that. I mean, obviously we see them dealing with OG being out right now as it is, so like you never know if there's going to be something down the line. But yeah, to just not glaze over Deuce too much, I thought that the 3-point shooting was the main thing, where if that's on, it's just like instantly a great game for him. Like the 4 for 4 from 3, like when he started hitting those from the corner, I was like, oh yeah, okay, like you can leave him out there the whole night if you want. Like it doesn't matter, because as long as he's hitting a good percentage of those threes, like he's instantly a super useful player out there. I just think ultimately, this of all the games where I would kind of like complain a little bit about the minutes, like I just don't really see it for this one, just because all three of the bench guards, or whatever you want to call Shamet, like a tweener guard wing, whatever, all of them played over 20 minutes, or like Shamet played 19 minutes 11 seconds, whatever. And there was also a minute and a half of garbage time for Tyler Kolek and Matt Ryan, and Porty played 5.5 minutes, which was kind of bizarre. Like that was the lineup I took more exception with, I guess. The fact that you had a Porty, Precious, Hart, what was it, Bridges and Brunson lineup out there at one point kind of just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, that's where like you want to get Precious out of there in that lineup more so than anything, because then you really can't have Porty and Precious out there at the same time. So that one was the one, maybe those 5 minutes go to Deuce or something, and that makes all the difference. Either way, I didn't have a huge issue with it, but I loved the play from all three bench guys. I thought that, Deuce had it going from three. Shamet kind of did almost like his best, like Josh Hart impression in many ways in this game, like with just the cutting and the quick decision making on the perimeter and putting the ball on the floor real quick, getting inside for layups. Like that was kind of his bread and butter, because just like Payne, he only went 1 of 4 from 3, and yet still managed to get to double digits in this one, and also 4 assists of his own. I think he's hopefully finally starting to come into his own, and that would be really nice, because I think the Knicks could use, hopefully the 3-point shot comes around. I'm just kind of waiting on it. Like this guy's like a 40% career 3-point shooter and can't seem to shoot more than like 25% so far this year. So I'm kind of just waiting for that to come around. And once that does, like, I think they've got a good rotation player on their hands.
Yeah, he's 31% from 3. I think it's funny. I think Shamet is my version of your Jericho Sims, where I was maybe this first part isn't true for you, but I was high on him initially, and I thought he was awesome and really additive this preseason, and it is just not held up for me, where defensively, like you see the effort from him, and he'll give like a really nice like initial pressure, and then someone will settle in and be like, this dude is small and skinny and maybe it's like not his fault, and it's that Tom Thibodeau is having him guard threes, and he should be guarding point guards or like smaller 2 guards. And in that sense, I thought Indiana was a good matchup for him. But someone like TJ McConnell, like he can slide his feet with, and he can play pretty good defense with. But when they put him on bigger guys, like he is just like barbecue chicken out there. Like they're just going at him over and over again. And that combined with the lack of shooting, like I've been a little out. He was much better in this game. Good cutting, did have that one transition 3 late, had like a blow by for a layup. Like he had some good moments. Final note for me on this game was and I guess this is build up from the last few games. Like Mikal had the Clippers game where he was just exceptional, and then was bad shooting against Denver, did some good stuff, was fine against the Lakers, just you didn't really notice him, had a good game against the Rockets, solid enough against Toronto, and now these last 2 games they combined 8 for 22 from the floor. But I don't want to misrepresent my issue in this game. It was certainly not the accuracy of his shooting. It was that he took just 7 shots in a game that Jalen Brunson played. What did he finish with? 24 minutes. Mikal I thought coming to the year was going to be the clear-cut third guy in this offense, and it's just been so hit or miss, so inconsistent. I said this to you before the show, but I think it bears repeating to everyone listening. I would far prefer he shoots 6 for 18 than he shoots 3 for 7. Like, just like he had TJ McConnell on him on a switch at one point, took one dribble, didn't look towards the rim, passed the basketball. And there's just too many times where he goes back to being early season McHale. He has taken just 6 free throws in the last 6 games. I know to some point that is just simply who he is, but I want to see aggressiveness on a night-to-night basis from him, because I said it after the Celtics game, like, and we talked about this with Bailey a whole lot. Like, you just have to build habits like that you don't need against bad to even good teams like Indiana that you're going to need against great teams. And one habit this team has to have is that Mikal Bridges, who's been an efficient 20-point scorer in the NBA, needs to be a high volume offensive option. And that doesn't mean that he's like isoing, waving at everyone out of the way and holding the ball for 10 seconds. It could mean he's catching it against a smaller defender, taking 2 dribbles and getting to his fadeaway, but he has to be aggressive. And he just wasn't in this game. And that's frustrating for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really have anything more to add on the Bridges front, or any front for that matter. I think you summed it up quite nicely. So I think we will call it an episode for today, but not to worry, back-to-back time. So we'll be back tomorrow with an episode about the Hawks game tonight. So keep your ears out for that tomorrow. And then maybe a little all-star content to lead us into the weekend. I don't know, predict who wins the contests and who's going to get more points out of Brunson or Cat or some in the All-Star tournament or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But either way, we'll talk to you all soon for the recap of the Hawks game tomorrow, and then have some more for you the rest of the week. Thank you all for listening. Talk to you soon. Peace out.